Hello, this is Martin Shervington, and this is Content Marketing using Google+. So, we're on to the second stage now, which is to decide on themes and topics. But, hold your horses. Before we get to that point, I want to throw out a question. Why are you creating content? That's really what we've got to be thinking about. So before we get to the point of going, what we're going to create, let's think about why we're going to create. We've done a bit of listening. We can start to understand. I think that's essential. I think just having open ears and going, okay, that's what's going on, that's the starting point, and it will give us ideas. But why do you want to create that video or that particular web page, blog? There we go, blog. Why do you want to do that? So it needs to fit in my view, to a bigger plan. Otherwise, you're just going to be throwing content out there, hoping people engage with it. What does that engagement do, and how's that going to change your life? So before I create any content, I decide on the outcomes. What am I trying to achieve with this? Which is going to come into evaluate and measure, which will be around there somewhere, a little later on as well. But I think it's integral at this point to go, how do I know that what I'm about to create has done its job? So if it's a blog post, then how am I going to measure that? Measurement's going to be probably number of people that have visited, or potentially number of people that have signed up to a newsletter, or number of people who have bought something from the site. If it's going to be a post or a tweet, but let's focus on Google+. If it's going to be a post, then how do I know that that's work? Is it number of shares, number of plus ones, number of comments? What is it I'm thinking? What am I trying to achieve? So before I start, I have that in mind. So I'd encourage you to be thinking about your outcomes. Okay, so then you're going to decide on your themes and topics that will help you to reach those outcomes. So based upon the listening phase, have a think about how you can use news. Mike Alton, who's a great writer on Google+, he talks about newsjacking, where you jump on a story. So this is a really good way. Also, think about who is listening to you. And I think that if you can spend time writing for the people that want to read your content, that kind of solves the problem. When I started on Google+, I blogged within the platform. And what I mean is I didn't use a blog. Even though I had a blog, I didn't focus on that because I was very much, if the attention was in Google+ and people were +1 commenting, particularly commenting and sharing, but very much the commenting, then I was getting feedback and being shaped around what content people liked. And I was writing a lot around Google+ psychology at that point. And so I tended to be writing a lot more around that. And then bit by bit, I began to blog on my actual blog, which was martinshervington.com, before now blogging on plusyourbusiness.com as well. And that means that I allowed the network, which I talked about in Listen, to form me. And that's worked very well. And it means that people engage because they've been involved in the process, essentially, of creating the content. So your network's going to determine the types of themes and topics that you want to relate to them about. And of course, it's going to tie back into your business. If your business is selling insurance, you've got to find a way of making that of interest to people, or making the topics around your business itself to be interesting for the audience. Otherwise, you're going to struggle. So that's a job. Now, I've seen people do this successfully on Google+, but it does take time. This is the main thing that if you want to take away from the section, though. When you find 50 to 100 people that love what you do, you've kind of solved it on Google+, is my opinion. So if you can find 50 to 100 people that relate to themes and topics, that really helps. Now, going back to the listening stage, you've got content that you can look for meme days, so you can be relating content to that. You can be looking at trends, so that's very much a day or a week long when things rise and fall. Or you could be looking at seasonal trends, which you've got summer, you've got Christmas, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Valentine's Day, and then everything. So whatever you want to do that will help your content relate to those people is going to be a good start. Also, have a think when you're putting together the content, or particularly the content planning, is whether you can hold people's attention along a theme. So regularly I do this, and there'll be 2 or 3 articles in a set, or there may be even up to 30 videos on one occasion that everybody could then start at the beginning and go through. And that means that you don't go looking for a new audience member every time. And if you take on board the conversations that you're having and take that as feedback, that can give you new themes that will emerge then in the future, because people often say, hey, this is great, but how about that? So you then bring the listening phase back into the deciding on the themes. So it's all a big feedback mechanism, and that's the great thing about Google Plus, is that you put your content out there, and as long as you've got your network starting to be built, and as long as you relate enough to people, they will start to engage, and you'll be able to decide which ways to go next and best. There we go. So that's the second stage, which is deciding on themes and topics. See you at the next module.